Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Larissa Martinez, and I'm the co-founder and president of Women's Public Leadership Network. And we are so thrilled to bring programs like this to you that highlight women across the country and their leadership journeys and help you learn a little bit about them and what they've been experiencing. And this week, for those that don't know, we are doing a special program, a week-long program called Celebration of Mothers on the Trail, leading up to Mother's Day, because obviously that's a core group of our demographic out there. And there's so many different challenges, but also a lot of pros to having a family and running. And so we just want to celebrate and congratulate all the women out there that are mothers that are running for office. Anyway, so thank you for joining us. We have Bobbie Daniel with us today to talk a little bit about her journey. And she is the chairman of one of our state partners in Colorado Women's Alliance, and also a candidate. And we're just so thrilled to have her taking some time to share her insights and experience being a mom. So with that, Bobbie, I'm going to kick it off to you to share a little bit about why you decided to run and give us a little bit of background on you.
Well, thank you, Larissa, for having me. I think this is a great program to highlight moms running for office and how we balance it and do it all. So I thank you guys for even putting this on. I can't wait to watch the rest of them this week. So yes, I'm Bobbie Daniel, and I filed to run for an office, January 12th of last year. And I just knew that I had to step into the arena. I really wanted to make an impact, and I didn't know always what that was going to look like, if it was going to be more at a local level or at a state level or a federal level. And so I think we have all of these options when we're looking at public service and we're looking at making that impact. So I think really it's about finding who you are and what your strengths are and what you're really passionate about. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to highlight you, and that's what's going to drive you. Because contentious at times. And so you really have to know yourself and know your strengths and know your weaknesses. And then when you're building out a campaign or you're trying to figure out what office should I do, where can I make the most impact with my skill sets and what I'm passionate about? So all of those things are really important to think about. And I think for me, it wasn't, I woke up one day and wanted to run for office. I'm a political policy junkie. I love to look at public policy from a bird's eye view and then also very deep. And so for me, that public policy correlated to quality of life for people. How do we raise that standard of quality of life for people? And women, we have such a great perspective on things. We can multitask, and we also have a tendency generally to see so much beyond today. I think when we're raising our kids, we're not doing it for instant gratification. We're doing it because we see the long-term effects. And so with public policy, that really resonates with me. And I really love diving into those specifics and seeing how this long-term public policy, does it do what it said it's going to do? Is it going to help? And how can we implement those things? And really, you want to step into where you're going to make the most impact. And that's the exciting thing. Running for office and public office is it's so much like people. It's so different at every level. And your strengths could be greatly appreciated, and that impact can be really felt at so many levels of government. And so I think it's just doing your homework, having those mentor relationships, taking people out for coffee, seeing the people who are already in those positions and asking them, hey, do you think you could see me in this role? Do you think my strengths would be really valuable to this organization or this particular office? And So I think it took me about 6 years to kind of figure out where I wanted to land with that. And with that, you pick up opportunities. So I think that really helps prepare it, because you don't always know where you're going to end up. But any opportunities that come along, I didn't always know how it was going to ultimately benefit, but I knew I had something to learn. I think sometimes with our male counterparts, they just kind of jump in and build the plane in the air. And I think with women, we are generally more calculated and reserved and really thoughtful about running for public office and putting ourselves out there. So we want to kind of go through, see what the cost is, see if we can manage that, and feeling really confident. And so that process has been long for me, in relative terms. I mean, 6 years isn't too insanely long, but now I feel very prepared. I feel like, and especially now with the press, and you're wondering, oh, are they going to say a gotcha question? I mean, you look at, especially on the national stage, there's so many things to talk about. And so you got to really be clear with your message, what you want your impact to be, and then really stick to those things. And if you don't know something, that's okay. You're human. You're not going to know everything. And I think asking people who are already doing it, and women are really great about having come alongside me, ask those questions. And I've been really blessed to have some really great mentors locally at a federal level. Building those partnerships, I think, gives you the confidence to take on whatever public office that you want to try to run for.
Yeah. Now, all of that is so helpful. One of the things that you said that I think is so important, we talk a lot about how women want to be prepared, they want to be trained, but it's funny because I actually think it's to our benefit that we want to feel prepared and trained. These are big positions. They make decisions that impact people's lives. It really is, something that I think is, to your point, really speaks to women wanting to feel as though they understand exactly what they're getting into. And kind of to that point, when it comes to your family, you had 6 years of preparation on the professional side, on the political side, finding the mentors, kind of getting a sense of what the position was, what you need to know. When did you have the conversation with your family about, this is what you're thinking of doing, and like helping them kind of prepare for this decision?
Yes, it didn't happen overnight. So they saw the passion in my heart. I'm a prolific reader. I'm always reading and trying to just really be prepared in that area. And so they knew it was a passion of mine. But, when we got married, it wasn't, oh, my wife's going to be political. That wasn't at all. I was a business owner. We were raising our young family. So there is a process of shifting. And so it doesn't always happen overnight. But when you're having those kitchen table conversations around life, I think people and your family really understand this is an important aspect of it. And we have to put people in there that want to build trust, want to have transparency, want to look at the broader scope of things. And so they see their mom being able to do that in normal everyday life, and that I could add value to our community. And so they are supportive of that. And my kids have really played a great part in it. And I think taking them along with you. And so is my husband. He's so, he's so supportive. And when things are, you'll have those bad days where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I could just, be doing XYZ. And this is a new level of putting your life under the microscope and opening yourself up. That's not normal for everyday life. In business, you don't get this level of scrutiny, and this it's very heightened. And so for your spouse to watch you go through something like that is difficult. So I would say make sure, well, at least in my life, making sure my foundation was really strong. My family was really strong. We had what we needed, that I felt like I could take that step. I feel like sometimes guys, they'll run for office and it's like, okay, well then naturally your family comes and builds you up. And so for women, we're the ones that do a lot of the coming around and building our families up. So to say, I need you to do this for me. And we just ended a pretty intense season in my campaign. And I can say after running for over a year and a half, it's not always intense. There'll be ebbs and flows. So the last 3 months, I just knew this is where I'm going to hit it really hard. I had planned out events that were really important to the campaign and messaging. And so I told my husband, okay, you're cooking, you're doing the grocery shopping, and your brain is kind of somewhere else, even when you're home and you're thinking about your messaging and you're thinking about what needs to happen. And so they were very great and understanding, but knowing, okay, here's 3 months. We're not always going to live in this space, and it won't be as intense. So I've noticed there's ebbs and flows, which is nice, because enjoy the time that you have, that you can be with your family, really present, put some boundaries around work emails, and just have that really organized, and build off that strong foundation and communication. Hey guys, this next 3 months are going to be really tough, but then we've got 2 months that are kind of a downtime. So in campaigns, you will have that as well. Local campaigns, your city council, your school boards, those are short campaigns. So you're really campaigning hard for about 6 weeks.
Yep.
And it gets intense, right up until the ballots drop. Then it's really intense there for a while, but it doesn't last forever. And I think if you can put those things on your calendar, and I started so early, and people thought, oh my gosh, why is she out 2 years before the election? But I had a lot of work to do, and I didn't want it to be so, I really wanted to be methodical with all the events and building those relationships. You really want to make those real connections. And so making a long runway is to your benefit, to your family's benefit, but also in the campaign world, it's to their benefit as well. People want to know who you are. They want to have a relationship with you, especially now. Sometimes national politics can be really insane. It is great when you have local representation that you can call and pick up on the phone and have conversation with. And I think women are especially good at that. And moms have that great emotional intelligence that I think we really need right now. And it's just being a good listener sometimes is people just want to be heard. They want to have that connection. And I told people too, when I was running, I don't want you just to call me, and I don't want to just call you for your vote. I really want to have a relationship here. And whether it's a mudslide or a fire, or there's some kind of emergency or not, I want you to be able to have that relationship. And that's what public service is about. And we need to make sure that if you're going to make an impact, that you're available to your the people that are in your community. So, yeah.
No, and to your point, I think it's so amazing that you spent that much time in your community listening to people and gathering kind of where they are on things. Because I was at a training over the weekend, and it was funny. I kept hitting on you need to listen, because politicians, you always hear them talk a lot, and you do need to be an effective communicator, obviously. But so much of it is really, to your point, being approachable to your constituents, being approachable to the voters, having them feel like they can talk to you in both good times and bad times, right? And one of the things that you talked about in terms of being local, especially, right? Local can be even harder than some of the other positions because you are, and state, just because you're there so much more than federal sometimes.
Yeah.
That I'm curious, for your kids specifically, do you find that they are involved in some of these events that you do because they're out there in their own community and in their schools and things? And also, I think I failed to ask you how old your children are.
Oh, yes. So my oldest is 16, and then we have 14-year-old, 7, and 6. So my youngest went to school, and I'm like, yay! You just want to make sure your family's taken care of and first. And I think that that's the reason why you're doing this. The reason why I'm running for public office is so I can leave my children a legacy, leave them something better than we found it. And that there's a lot of hope in what we're doing. And it's not always so contentious and doom and gloom. And especially at home, you can really build those relationships with people. And it doesn't always mean my office or my position can help necessarily. But if we have people at the table, we can get the problem solved. And if we're looking at more people coming to the table, there's different organizations that may be able to pick up that better and more effectively than my position or my administration. So it is bringing people together. And these are life lessons for your kids. I think showing them listening, being action-oriented, bringing more people to the table, having a diverse point of view is a benefit. And that's really being an example to my kids, I think really helps. And I'm local, so I really wanted a public position that really fit where we're at right now with our family. I guess if that's the one piece of advice that I can give women who are thinking about public office, there's so many options. And by taking people out who are currently doing it and having coffee with them, you can ask them, what does your work-life balance look like? And especially I think the younger generation, they're not trying to like kill themselves for a position or a job. They want work-life balance. And so I think asking those really important questions beforehand, asking people who've campaigned beforehand is really important. But my kids are great. They help me stuff envelopes, invitations, any marketing materials I would get. We'd throw up the banner and they'd look at it. And so I wanted to include them in the process. And we have lots of parades. And they got to walk in all the parades. My husband was the first parade. He's like, oh, well, we need to build you something better. And this isn't going to work. And so putting more people on your team and your kitchen cabinet is so helpful. A campaign can feel very lonely at times. But when you can communicate what you need, or, hey, this wasn't working, let's try something different. And women, I've noticed, generally don't have these crazy big egos. They're trying to find the quickest, most efficient, effective way possible to get things done. And I think that that's really helpful, especially in this arena of politics. So that makes it easier when you can include your family, can include your friends, and lean on your natural friend base as well. I think that that's really helpful.
Was there a favorite event that they liked? I mean, did they like parades, or would they rather be at home just stuffing envelopes? Is there a favorite activity that they like to do best?
In the campaign, they do actually like going to the luncheons and seeing different speakers. I had my first public debate and I just didn't even think about bringing them. And I wish I would have. So
Yeah.
that was a mistake. And I felt like if they could see their mom in that arena, and answering some of those tough questions and how you're reacting, I think that that's really good for the kids to be able to see that other side of it. So I'm like, oh man, why didn't I take you guys? I wasn't really even thinking about that. So if there is any public events while you're campaigning, I would say bring your family. We did have a campaign kickoff right before caucus, and we brought all the kids, and your constituents want to get to know your family. And it's not just you running for office, it's they're looking at your whole family. Okay, is your spouse supportive? How are your kids? Are they excited about that? And so it tends to build those relationships more when they can see, all right, your spouse is actually not hating this event. And you're you're kind of selling the whole package a little bit, not to put weird pressure on your kids. You don't want to do that. But they want to have a relationship. People ask me all the time, oh my gosh, how are your kids? Everly lost a tooth. They're really into that. So I would say bring your kids, especially for these local levels. I think that might be a different conversation when you're running for Congress or governor at that state level. And I would say you've got your local races. At a state level, it gets tough, especially if you've got a big state like Colorado. We have quite the big landmass. It's a lot of area to cover, and it is kind of a lot. It's just different when you have a young family. So I think once you are getting up into these higher offices, you might have more to consider. Raising money, those kind of things has a lot more impact on your time. So local level, a little easier for me and my big family. I really wanted to be there with my kids. I wanted them to go to the same school. We didn't want to move. So this just really made a lot of sense for our situation.
Yeah. And, it's interesting that you were talking about people wanting to be involved with your family and asking you questions and wanting to see if your husband is on board. I feel like that is something that's unique to women candidates.
Yeah.
Not that people don't care about the families of male candidates, but it's just a different level of expectation. It's a different level of questioning. And so kind of to that point, have you experienced any challenging situations, either balancing the family or with questions about whether or not they're excited that you're running or how you're going to balance your, responsibilities as a mom versus as a public servant? Just curious if you've had any of those experiences, because I know some folks do get those questions.
I get all of them.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Let us know your responses because I feel like it's such a hard thing to respond to, because obviously, you want to be a good mother but also have this desire, to your point, to be a public servant and to lend your voice. And it is important for your kids and your network to see you leading. But, I feel women get them so much more than men do.
Oh, yeah, they do. It's been hysterical, the questions I get. I think having the gift of letting some of that stuff roll off your back and just, I have comments about my outfits. I have comments about time management, which is fine. I'll get really just funny questions that I don't think most guys would get. And part of it is just knowing, forgiving really quick on the spot. I'm sure they didn't really mean to come across that way. And so you just have to make a conscious decision that most of those things are not about me. And that's coming from their experience. And sometimes families don't necessarily make it through a political race or a season, but that doesn't mean that's going to be your story. And it shouldn't be a reason if you've really had these great conversations with your family and you all feel like this is something that you want to do. that's great to set these goals, to achieve something as a family. Your whole family is going to be achieving things at different points in life. And so if they can see it more so like that. But yeah, I've had some of the funniest things, and it just have some sense of humor about it and don't take it personal. I think that would be my advice. Forgive quickly, don't take it personal, and have a little bit of sense of humor. Someone said, "Oh my gosh, you look like an old lady."
Oh,
And I'm like, "Thank you so much. Margaret Thatcher is my hero. That is such a compliment."
oh my gosh. Well, I think you look fabulous, Bobbie.
It's
That's
funny.
funny.
These conversations probably don't happen with males. I don't comment people's outfits when it's a guy. So
Yeah.
it's just a different level of exposure. And because you are putting yourself up in a position where you're representing the public, it's a completely different job. So when you're working, and I've owned a business for 12 years prior, you have privacy. No one really asks you these silly questions, but when you're representing them, they really want to make sure that they're making an informed decision with who they want to represent them for 4 years, 2 years, or 2 4-year terms. So there's some longevity in there. They really want to make sure that you're what they're looking for as far as a family. They're having a return on their investment. So I think that there's a lot more to consider when we're working with public servants.
Yeah, so true. Well, you've given us such amazing advice and insight so far, but as we're getting kind of close to the end here, just putting out a final note that anyone watching, feel free to put any questions in the chat box, although we will have this up on our website for you to view later as well, and you can always send us questions. But do you have any final kind of advice or tips that that have come to you through this conversation?
Yes. I think women overthink things oftentimes. I have, and it's a good thing to a certain degree, because you want to check everything that you're doing and make sure that you're feeling prepared. Sometimes you just need to jump in. You just have to file the paperwork to run for office. But I really think that just be fearless in a certain way that will push you to do things that you never thought possible. A big part of public service to me was watching people that I did not feel like, oh gosh, well, this guy can do it, or this person's doing it, like, I'll be fine. So even at my worst day, you still have something to really offer, and your perspective is so valuable. And in the public square, we need those perspectives. We need more common sense, just looking at public policy, not personalities. Those things are more what we need. And we need that at a local level so much. And so whether it's running for office, getting on boards and commissions, just fill out the application, apply, get your feet wet, volunteer on someone's campaign, take someone out to coffee. We're good at that. Women are great at asking the tough questions. How did you get to point A to point B? So start now, do what scares you, and you're going to land on your feet. And whether it's a successful campaign or not, I've lost a lot of other campaigns I've worked on, and I learned something really valuable from all of those experiences. And so all the things, motherhood, working, just your journey matters, and your journey matters in public policy, and it's going to matter when you're running for office or serving on that board and commission. So just dive in. You don't always have to have it figured out, and you have a lot to offer.
Oh, I love that. And then lastly, what are you doing to celebrate Mother's Day?
We have a tradition where I trek my family out to pick all the garden stuff that I hadn't planted already. So I'm really looking forward to summer tomatoes and some kale. So I love gardening, but I make them work. That's my that's my mother.
I like it. I like it. But no,
Yeah.
that sounds great. That sounds like a great day. Well, thank you so much again. And as I mentioned, feel free to watch this later and send us questions via our email. WPLN, we provide educational resources like this for free for women that are looking to run for office at every level, including boards and commissions, all the way up to every appointed and elected across the country. So feel free to check out all of our resources, and especially this week. In fact, we're going to be doing a program for spouses and families that are looking for some tips on how best to support their moms that are running. And then also we're going to be doing a live book reading of My Mommy as a Candidate for Kids on Friday. So stay tuned with us all week as we have a whole bunch of programs to highlight. But Bobbie, again, thank you so much for joining us, for kicking off the week. We're so thrilled that you've put yourself forward and that you came on to share a little bit about your journey. So thank you so much.